Good morning everyone and welcome back to Decisive Squirrel Homestead. We are going to do another garden update today. It's been about, I think, 3 weeks since I filmed the last one. I'm filming this on May 13th, so it's been a little while. Things have grown a lot because it's spring. Our cat that's not our cat is following me. I'm trying not to step on him. I'm going to try to keep this short, but I doubt that's going to work, so we'll just add timestamps at the end. So come along, let's see what's going on. One of our new additions is this Dynatrap to help with the mosquitoes. Not super ideal because it does attract some good insects also, but we have a creek really close by here and the ground kind of holds a lot of water back here. So we also have a lot of mosquitoes and they were really bothersome. So we decided to set this out here and see if it's helping with the mosquitoes. It has caught a ton of mosquitoes and a few moths, and I haven't really seen anything super beneficial in there. So I think it's working out pretty good. I hear you. You need some love. Okay, let me get some head scratches. I know. Alrighty, we did get our bees last weekend. They've been here almost a week now. They were a little agitated at first from being loaded up in a truck and moved over here and being in a new place and having to figure out where everything was. But they calmed down really quick. You can kind of see them. Cat's making not great choices right now. I'm not sure how that's going to go for him. And I'm not sure if you can see the bees coming in and out. We have seen them in the garden and going back over into the hive, so they're doing their little pollinating job, but really they're here for the honey. And they do have honey already. They had collected and made honey before they moved. We're just letting them calm down a little bit and we'll collect honey in 2 to 3 weeks. My brother's going to come back over and help us do that. So we will have video on collecting honey here soon. Our strawberries aren't putting out a whole bunch of berries anymore. They're kind of done. We are getting a few. There's some really nice ones in there, but the plants are growing really great. They're putting out these runners so that they can make new plants for us. We will try to help these make it through the summer and the winter, and next year they should produce really, really well. We do still have some really nice berries back in here. So we're getting a few, but not a ton anymore. But it was a good first year for those. Lettuce and herbs are all starting to bolt, which is expected. They've been in for a while now. We do still pick some stuff out of here. This other bed, also pretty much everything has bolted here. Purple basil is all bolting. Asparagus crowns, it turns out we've only got I think 3 that are alive, and we aren't harvesting from them this year. So when you first put them in the ground, you don't harvest from them. You just let them grow and fern out like this so that they can photosynthesize and put down better roots, and then they're perennials. So you keep them for years and harvest in the future. We did throw more lettuce seed into this bed, so that's what's growing up down here at the bottom. Now that those other beds have bolted, we're just starting a new lettuce bed for feeding our guinea pigs. So those are our wicking beds, doing about like we expected. I have been asked when I was going to do a chicken update, so let's check in on these ladies today. They do need clean water. I just haven't done that yet. It's morning, but we will get there. Yes, I know the water is dirty. Everyone's going to come and say hi right now, and then they're going to run away when I get the door open. Let's see, who wants to say hi? So we have our red sex-lynx birds, these 3 over here on the side. That one in the back is Becky. The kids named all the chickens. The bald eagle-looking lady here is Sandy. She is an Easter egger. She will hopefully lay some shade of blue or green eggs. The yellow chickens are Buff Orpingtons, and the kids have named them Colonel and the Bros. They don't have individual names, I don't think. Hi, I can't remember. I think it's these red ladies. One is Kronk and one is LeFou, but that's Becky. They call her Chicken Becky all the time. Hello. I did not bring you food yet. I know, it's a tragedy. I hear you. You're gonna complain? Please don't peck the camera. Let's see. Our black Australorps back there, the all black chickens, they're kind of cool. They have like a green shimmer to their feathers. One is Oreo. Oreo's in the back with the tail up in the air there. One is Nico, and one is Flipper, named after Kipper the dog, but it's Flipper the chicken. Here's Camilla. She's another Easter egger. She has a fuzzy face. Kind of cool. That fuzzy face comes from the Americana breed that is part of the Easter egger breed. Easter eggers are kind of like mutts, but Americanas lay actual blue eggs. So I'm hoping Camilla gives us really pretty blue eggs since she has that Americana fluffy face going on. And Clarence, we're missing Clarence. Our last Easter egger. I don't know if you can see her. She's cleaning her wings back here. She's kind of brown. Everybody's gonna run away, including Clarence. She's up on the wood now. That is Clarence. I think it started out as when they were chicks, the kids were calling her, I think it was off-brand Sandy, and then because she was off-brand, they named her Clarence. When they were chicks, they all looked very, very similar, all of those Easter eggers, and now they look totally different. So they kind of looked similar when they were chicks, and then they completely changed when their adult feathers came in. So it turned out Clarence is super pretty and like a tiger chicken now, but she didn't look like that when she was little. So those are our ladies that are going to be giving us eggs soon. We've got probably about 2 more weeks before we're going to be getting eggs from them. And then they'll lay about 6 to 7 eggs a week each. So we will be inundated with eggs really quick. The chickens are in this chicken tractor that moves around the yard every 2 days, 2 to 3 days. They move to a new spot. So they always have fresh grass to be on. They don't stay until it turns into a mud puddle. So they're always able to peck at the grass and weeds and bugs. And then we also throw them things from the garden. So scraps, when we pull up the cabbage, they get the outside cabbage leaves, or if we have a bug-eaten tomato, they get that. So they're basically grass-fed chickens. They do get a little bit of feed to help out, but mostly they're always on fresh grass, pecking at grass and eating bugs and things like that, which is going to make healthier eggs. Over here at the Hugelkultur, things have really taken off. Our corn is huge now. We've never really grown corn. We've tried, I think once, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, but we didn't get any corn out of it. This looks like it's going really good, so I'm crossing my fingers that's going to work out. The vines that are coming out are pumpkin vines, and I'm just letting that happen because a border of spiky plants is going to protect my garden, so I'm good with that. You can see some pumpkins down off of these vines. If you want to grow a big pumpkin or a big watermelon, you really only want 1 per vine, but those are on different vines, so they are both staying. Back in here, there is a huge a huge pumpkin hiding back in here. That one is growing very fast. You may notice I still have not thinned my squash and zucchini. I probably really ought to do that. I did see a YouTube video recently of someone who grows their squash and zucchini vertically. They put a post up and tie it to it and then cut the bottom leaves off because the top leaves are getting the sun, and that's fine. And it kind of looks like a banana tree. It's really cool. So I think I might try that just to see how it goes. I do need to get in here. I have some leaves with powdery mildew on them, so I need to get in here and cut those out. Let's see. You can see on this leaf, you have this like white speckled stuff along the veins, that's normal. That's supposed to be there. But back here, where it's all diffuse and spread out in random spots and it looks fluffy, that's powdery mildew. That's a fungus that is just everywhere around here. I don't think there's really any avoiding it, besides cutting it out and getting it out of the garden so it's not spreading any further. So I need to get those. I'm thinking about also starting some new squash and zucchini plants. It's a little bit late, but I don't think it's too late yet. And then we'll have another run of them because these plants will eventually die when the weather gets really hot. It's kind of strange right now. We've already been up in the mid 80s, but right now we're in the low 60s. We had this crazy cold front. And next week it's supposed to rain all week, which is not gonna be great for the garden, but 2021 weather, we've had a freak winter storm, we've had a freak hailstorm. Now we have this weird late cold front, and then we're gonna have a whole week of rain. So it's just one adventure after another. Down here on this first bed with cabbages, you can see the cabbages are pretty bug eaten at this point. The caterpillars have gotten to them. The head of the cabbage is still fine, and mostly I just have the purples left. There's a few green cabbages down there, but it's mostly these purples that I haven't done anything with yet. I will. Onions, we have started to pull out onions, so you can see the tops are starting to flop over. That means they're about done. So when the tops flop over, you leave them in the ground a few more days, and then you pull them out and let them cure. So sometimes I just hang them on this cattle panel. Sometimes we lay them out on cardboard under the porch. Basically, you just want them to dry out so that the neck of the onion closes up where the leaves come out. You can see there are tons and tons of tomatoes back here. This is why that rain is not really ideal. These are like just about to turn. We're starting to see the first ones that have turned red. You can maybe see back in there, getting some color back there. So that means the skins are pretty thin at this point. And with inches of rain over just a few days, the skins are going to split, which is not great. Once the skin splits, they attract bugs and you end up losing the tomatoes. So I'm hoping, I don't know, I hope we can harvest before the rain comes, or I don't know, we'll just be picking split tomatoes and having to preserve them as soon as we get them in the house. But that's how it goes. Gardening is a lesson in patience and perseverance. Our beets are kind of putting out leaves, but the beets aren't really very big yet. That was just another weather issue. They froze. It was too late to replant them after the freeze. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit, right? On bed 2 over here, I have some, these are Yeti nasturtiums that I planted just recently. That has its first bloom. These, I think these are the ones that are supposed to make big long vines eventually. We'll see if that happens. I don't know. I've never grown them before. We have purple onions down here in the middle. They are huge at the base, but the onion doesn't bulb out very much, so they're not as big as you would think, but they're doing really good. My kitty cat friend is back. He wants to know why he's not getting pet. Tomatoes are doing amazing if we can just keep them from splitting with this rain that's coming. All these Cherokee purples are growing really well. Down here we have San Marzanos. It's a paste tomato. They also have lots and lots of tomatoes on them. We're going to be incredibly busy in the kitchen, guys. We're going to be canning and freeze drying non-stop really soon here. This is just more of the same. All of these plants are completely loaded down with tomatoes. Still putting out blooms to do more tomatoes. These are indeterminate plants, so these are going to keep going and going and going for a while. until it gets too hot for them. At the end of this bed, a different nasturtium. This one's a purple emperor that I also just recently put into the ground. They're supposed to get really big and tall, but they weren't doing so great as seedlings. So I think they're just settling in and trying to get good roots put down. But a flower did open up. The watermelons down here are starting to climb. They need some encouragement to climb still. I come out here every day and make sure that they're climbing up this trellis. There's one of the bees. Hey, friend. Let's see, I think I had seen, there's some tiny, not even watermelons yet, but there are some tiny female blooms that had opened up. Yeah, here's one down here. So there's a little, maybe will be a watermelon one day. We'll see if it got pollinated or not. If it didn't get pollinated, it won't grow. But these melon vines are doing pretty good. Getting bigger, leafing out. They need a little bit warmer weather, so that'll take some time. So they keep trying to do this. They want to vine out into the bed, which is normal for a watermelon, but I want them to climb. So I come out here every day and put them up on the trellis, and they do eventually grab on. Tomatoes on this side are a mix of Romas and San Marzanos. So the Romas will put out tomatoes and then really slow down. They're not going to keep going and going as great as the San Marzanos probably will. Down here at the end of bed 3, we have our blue Hubbard squash. Again, this is a trap crop. This is here because it attracts the squash vine borers and the cucumber beetles better than the squash plants and the cucumber plants do. It's vined out a lot into a big, huge vine. Again, I'm letting it do that because that makes kind of a border to hopefully keep out things like raccoons and possums and stuff like that that might come and mess with the garden. We do have our first really big blue Hubbard squash on the vine. That's kind of like a winter squash, like a butternut squash, and I don't think we're gonna like it. Just from what I've read on it, I don't think it's something that we're probably going to eat, but chickens like them, so the chickens can have them if we don't like them. And then tomatoes on bed 3, we have more Cherokee purples, and we get into our cherry tomatoes. They're starting to turn, and we have big bunches everywhere. We're going to be so overrun with tomatoes. These plants are actually taller than me at this point. They've made it almost to the top of our cattle panel arch here. So they are doing really well, still putting out flowers, still making more tomatoes. This first set, I think these are the Gardener's Delight. Over here we have the yellow pear tomatoes. Also has lots of bunches going. These are the newer ones, so they're still little. But down here at the bottom, they're getting big, and they're gonna start turning yellow here soon. And then the last set of cherry tomatoes are Sweet 100 tomatoes. You can see clusters of those too, and they're starting to turn back there. There's some, actually, I think there's some that are ready back there that I need to get to. These are also really tall. The cherry tomato plants get super tall. I probably need to come out here. Yeah, there's some suckers on these, so I need to come do a tiny bit of pruning and tie the tops of them to the panel so they stay upright. Our white tomasil tomatoes are growing well. They've put out a lot of fruit now. There's some back in there. I don't think they're turning yet. I haven't seen any color to them. They all still look green. But there are some huge tomatoes on here. And then at the very end, our blue tomato has set fruit, so I'm excited about that. I want to see what that's like. And then cantaloupes are finally taking off a little bit. I think they've finally found some good soil and they've gotten a little bit happier. You can see there's some female blooms here that might turn into a cantaloupe. We'll see. Gonna see if they got pollinated or not. There's an awful lot of bees around, so hopefully they did. But these cantaloupes are finally starting to grow. The ones down on this end still aren't doing great, but nothing on this end is doing great. So I think there's just something up with the soil. Something got put down here before we moved in, I think. Brussels sprouts are finally making some little sprouts. Let's see if you can see back there. Tiny little sprouts finally starting at the stalk there. Now, are we actually going to get them, or will it get hot and the sprouts will open up? Who knows? But they're here. They're doing something. If they don't make Brussels sprouts for us, they're food for the chickens. On this next row, we have our cucumbers and beans, along with carrots. This used to have the peas, but we pulled those out because they had powdery mildew. So we got rid of all of those. We have carrots in the middle here that are doing really great. We do pull them every once in a while. There are lots of pickling cucumbers. I was really hoping to give some to my friend that is selling cucumbers in the grocery store. Selling pickles in the grocery store. But we don't quite have enough for that, but we do have enough to run one batch of pickles for us every weekend. So that's what we've been doing. The pole beans, the Kentucky Wonders, are as tall as our cattle panel arch now and are reaching for the sky. This guy up here that's like, well, where do I go now? They have started to make beans. Little itty bitty baby beans, but not ready to pick yet. But they're doing really great. Cucumbers over here are still doing great. Some of those are starting to get pretty tall too. This one up here, this is probably about 6 feet tall. I hear the bees. They're in all of these flowers over here. I love how these pole beans have climbed this panel though. Down here we have me saying that every bean will climb eventually, so we can plant them close together. That's not true. These are true bush beans that have stayed close to the ground, but they seem to be doing well. There's a whole lot of beans back in here. Let's see, you can't really see them on that one. Most of these are provider beans. There are some wax beans also. These are wax beans back in here. Nope, stay back, leaf. They don't want to be seen. You can see wax beans back in there. I just picked some of these yesterday, so there's not a ton out right now. Here we go, some provider beans. I need to pick again, and I want to do some pressure canning and save some of these green beans. Again, down at the very end of this bed, things just don't do as well. This is a different kind of cucumber. This is a slicing cucumber. So I don't know if it's a variety issue or this is a bad end of the garden issue. We'll have to try again next year and see what happens. On this last row, we have more blue Hubbard squash vines sprawling out. Gonna make another squash down there. I have seen cucumber beetles and squash vine borers on these plants, so I think they're working. I hope. They're not hurting anything anyway. Over on this side behind our beans, we have edamame that we were kind of worried about because they put out the pods, but then the beans weren't getting any bigger. But I think they finally are starting to fill out. I think we might actually be able to pick these this weekend. And those put out like one flush of beans, and then that's it. So those are going to be done pretty quick. These other plants on the edge are our purple whole peas, our southern peas. I need to do a little bit of weeding there, but they're doing pretty good. Nobody's blooming yet, but they're a summer crop, so I didn't really expect them to be blooming yet. It's going to take a little while to settle in. On this other side, we have all of our peppers. So we start with our cayenne peppers, which are growing really well. They aren't red yet, but they're getting there. I think they've just about finished growing, some of the ones that started out early. And they're going to ripen soon, and they are still putting out new blooms to make new peppers. And then we have all of our jalapenos. So those are growing really well. Some of these plants have lots of peppers on them already. And again, they are also still blooming. So they're doing really great. That's our first set of jalapenos that went in the ground. This was a second set, so they're a little bit smaller, but they're starting to set fruit. I did lose a few plants. We had a whole bunch of rain all at once, and because of how the land slopes, this part down here got really, really muddy, and it was so soupy wet that the plant couldn't stand upright anymore. So that was problematic. We are going to be working on improving the soil over a couple of years here. Down at the end are jalapenos that went in last. They are, oh, I was going to say they didn't have peppers yet, but they do. I see some peppers back there. So they're working to catch up quickly. You can see another plant leaning here. I need to give it some help. At the end of the jalapenos, we have the habaneros. These went in really late. I was trying to start seedlings and they just were on the struggle bus. They were not doing well at all. Finally, I gave up and I was like, I'm just going to put them in the ground and see what happens. They look happier in the ground, but they're not growing yet. But I'm betting they're going to catch up. Peppers are hot weather plants, so they've got time. It's only May. I think they'll grow and we'll still get habanero peppers out of them. I have a few more of my nasturtiums that I put in the ground over here. Another purple emperor, and I can't remember if that one's a Yeti or a purple emperor. And then Anaheim chili peppers are next. They are doing pretty good too. There's some really big peppers back in here. These were the first ones that came out. But all of these plants have set fruit also. There's a lot of peppers here. And then everything else is bell peppers. So many bell pepper plants. They are growing really, really well. I actually cut some of these off to give to someone the other day. So these that are about this size are kind of the second round that came out. But they're doing really good. They're really happy. I haven't really seen any issues with them yet. They have blooms. They're continuing to put out fruit. Here's a pretty big one. So these are all cow wonder peppers. So they're green now and they can be used as green peppers, or they can be left on the plant and they'll turn red and have red peppers. We didn't do any orange or yellow peppers just because we didn't have seed for them. We were starting everything from seed and we just didn't have that seed, so we didn't do them this year. All of our berry vines, you probably can't even tell what's going on because the berries are not growing and the grass is. And I bet what happened, because we're along a fence line here, is that the previous owners put down Roundup or something like that. So the things we want to grow that are a little more fragile aren't growing, but all this grass is doing fine. So I'm not sure what we're gonna do here. If we're gonna keep trying in this spot and just wait it out for whatever's in the soil to give up and do more weeding and mulching, or if we're gonna try to do berries in a different spot next year. I don't know, I haven't really decided. The raspberries are doing pretty good, which is interesting because they don't really grow that well here. And we do have this dewberry vine that came up, which I don't know, it should be bigger than this by this time of year. And I never pulled dewberries out, so I don't know where it came from, but I don't know, it makes fruit. It's pretty much like a blackberry, so we might leave that and let that take over here if it's gonna grow here. Our blackberries down here are just really not doing well. We have one stick that's trying to put out some leaves at the bottom, but not doing well at all. This one is totally dead. This one has a little bit of new growth, but it should be bigger than this by now. Same thing here, just a stick and a few leaves. It really should be better than that by now. This one is one of the better ones. You can see new cane growth here. It's also further from the fence, which is part of what makes me think maybe they sprayed Roundup at the fence at one point. And this is our other one that's doing pretty good. It's got some growth up here. It's put up this new cane from the ground. I don't really know what's going on with these guys. I think what we're gonna do is throw more, maybe put cardboard down to smother some of this grass, and then throw mulch on top and let the strong survive, see what plants come back. Over here at the corner of the compost pile, we have a couple of pumpkin plants that I just had extra seedlings. So I put them here thinking that they would eventually put down roots and pull nutrients from the compost pile. Seems to be working well for this plant. It has reached out and decided it's going to climb our gate. But it's growing well. We'll see. I do have pumpkins that have kind of taken off at different times, which I'm happy about because I think that means we'll get through the fall. We'll get pumpkins spread out over time. Compost is getting pretty full over here. We aren't super specific about how we do it. We throw in our green scraps and then throw brown material on top and just keep layering it up. We'll add more boards to the front as we fill up more here, and then once this side is full, we'll stop adding to that and we'll only add to this side over here. Right now this side is just holding our brown material so we have it ready to scoop over when we need it. I think our potatoes over here are pretty much a total loss this year. This just did not go well. We will not try to do this tower thing again. We will just do them in the ground from now on. Some of them are doing pretty good. Some of them have been completely eaten by bugs. That right there has been demolished. Some of them have just died. They're just really not in good shape. So what happened with the potatoes is, first of all, doing these towers was not a great idea. And then we planted potatoes before the freeze, and the freeze came along and killed everything. And then I just went to the grocery store and bought some organic potatoes and threw those in the ground. They did take off and sprout, but they're just not healthy plants. They're not doing great. So we won't be repeating this experiment again. I don't know if we're going to get anything this year. Definitely not enough to make it worth the time and the money. So in the future, we will be doing potatoes in the ground if we do them at all. Potatoes are pretty cheap to buy anyway. I don't know, we'll see. But these are not working out this year. This is one of our fails. It's important to show the fails along with the successes, right? I did not show the fruit trees last time because, you know, they're just trees putting out leaves, growing a better root system. There's not a whole lot interesting going on. But this is one of our peach trees, and it does have one peach on it. That's all there's going to be this year. That's normal. You don't generally get fruit for the first couple of years, so that's fine. Our nasturtiums that we put around the base are blooming. That looks nice. We do have garlic and some borage and things like that that are coming up along the bottom there. Over at the fence, I have put in sunflowers. These are supposed to be the big mammoth sunflowers that get super tall. Some of these sunflowers are growing, some of them aren't. Down on this end, they seem to be doing better. They have full sun, so that makes sense. Some of these are really big, so I hope they grow up big and tall and put out a nice pretty sunflower. And maybe we can even get seeds from them. We'll see how things go. But I think those are gonna look pretty over the summer. Our apple trees are not going to put out any fruit this year, which is to be expected, but there is some really good growth going on here. There's new growth at the end of the branches and things like that. Nasturtiums are blooming down here too. Our service berries and Nanking cherries are doing a little bit better than our other berries, but also not great. They are also in desperate need of weeding. This one on the end's doing a little bit better. Has less weeds, so surprise, surprise. And this apple tree has some really good growth on the end of its limbs. New growth here. Again, no fruit, but that's expected. And then down here at the bottom are things that we planted to try to get I am blanking on the name, a fruit tree guild going. Those nasturtium leaves are huge, but no flowers yet. Plum trees are getting really tall. They have great growth, no plums. As expected, again, this tree also getting really big. There's our kitty cat friend again. Says, why are you not petting me? And then up here closer to the house, I'm still nursing along these artichokes. Some are doing better than others. I think I need to put some sort of Miracle Grow fertilizer or something or other on them. I need to research that a little bit. Our lemon tree had some blooms, I think. There they are. Some blooms on the end there. I hear you. And our bonfire peach also has, I think there's actually 2 peaches on this one, but it has set fruit that looks like it's actually going to produce for us this year. Those red leaves are so cool. I had no idea it had red leaves when we bought it. Lime tree growing really well. No flowers, but that's all right. And then goji berries we got from a friend. We put those into a pot and they are starting to settle in. And the Homestead, not our cat, that I guess is kind of our cat. We co-parent with the neighbors. He makes the rounds. So that is all from the Homestead this week. We have more freeze dryer videos coming for y'all. Everybody seems to find those interesting, figuring out what goes on when you freeze dry different foods. So we will have more of those for you soon, and lots of tomato preservation videos coming real soon. We'll see y'all later. Bye.